It's not widely known, but shipwrecks always have an owner. In the UK, it's possible for private individuals to buy and sell them, and I've always fancied owning one. So when I saw this advert on Facebook Marketplace, I knew that this was my opportunity. Built in 1896, the Almond Branch was torpedoed on the 26th of November 1917 by the very successful German Submarine UB-57. Like most merchant casualties of the two world wars, the insurance claim was processed by the British government, who then went on to own the wreck. In an attempt to recoup their losses, they sold it in 1978. 46 years later, the owner decided they didn't want it anymore, so put it up for sale on Facebook. £300 later and a few messages, I became the proud owner of a 3,000-ton shipwreck, located in 58 metres of water off the Cornish coast. Having bought it, there was only one thing to do, and that was to go and dive it. Here I am today. I'm going to dive my wreck. Yeah. Considering it was January, conditions were absolutely fantastic. This is us on board In Deep's dive boat Seeker, and that's my long-term buddy and the guy who produces the wonderful photographs, Rick Ayrton, who's in front of me. As we often do, Liz is our crew. She's there, keeping us all on the safe and narrow, making sure we're all good to go. This bit of the dive is always a bit challenging. Got to get up with all that gear on. Those ropes overhead make it really easy. It also means that even in rough seas, you've got something to hold on to and something that's going to keep you upright. As we often are, Rick and me are the second pair in, so we're taking the lazy shot. That's it there in my hand. Because this dive's relatively shallow for us at 58 metres, the lazy shot has been tied up, so it doesn't, otherwise it'd probably hang on the bottom or catch on the bottom of the wreck. So Rick's in there, you can see conditions actually looking really good. And as you'll see in a minute, visibility turns out to be fantastic. Bit of a hiccup for me there. You probably saw that the bottom of the lazy shot, the clip, had got kind of lodged in between part of the lift. But I sorted it out with Liz's assistance, and there I am in the water. Great news is, not too far away from the shot, which is vertically hanging down. That's always a great sign, means there's not very much current. So Rick's already got down, you can see him there. My job is to get the lazy shot onto the shot line so that we can drop it down. I'm swimming in. Rick's waiting for me there, which is absolutely fantastic, and he's going to give us a hand with getting that on. So really nice, you know, when you know somebody really well, and you work together to try and get things done. So I've had a quick look at him there, seen there's no bubbles coming off his gear. He's going to be having a quick look at me as I go down. I'll be going in front of him, but in the moment we're having problems. The lazy shot's not playing. It's not going down the rope, but we're both pushing it down. It'll soon be on its way. I'm going to use the weight to pull me down and get me underwater. So there we go. It's starting to go 7 metres, 8 metres, and we're starting to head down. And as you can see, just looking down the shot line there, you can see the visibility is really nice. Really good. You don't always get that in January. You certainly don't expect it. So we've got high hopes for this dive. We'd actually dived very close to here the day before on a wreck called the Eastfield. The Eastfield was sunk on the same day by the same submarine as the Almond Branch. It's absolutely incredible when you think, you think that they weren't able to notify other shipping in the area, but none of these ships had radios. So easy prey for submarines. You can see I'm heading down there. It's all going well. Visibility still looking really good. We'd probably had, I don't know, 8 to 10 metres visibility on the Eastfield on the day before, which, as I say, is only several miles from here. And so it looks as though we're going to get exactly the same thing on this dive. Also, you know, even though we're at 30 metres here, I haven't got my torch on yet. There's still plenty of ambient light. There's Rick coming down with me. There's a lazy shot, and I think we've probably got to the end of its length. So next job is, well, first of all, it's slightly hooked around one of my bailout cylinders. Next job is to get the prusik off there, get the prusik on the rope, and that's what we're going to do. You probably see there that my shearwater is telling me that I've got a stack time alarm. That's a setting to record how much life there is left in your scrubber. It shouldn't be showing that. I've got plenty of life left in my scrubber. I just forgot to reset the timer on the shear water. So if you're worried about me, please don't. It's all going to be okay. And there we go. The Prusik loop is on there, nice and tight. We're going to take off the shackle and put the shackle on now. Rick's got the video lights, or got lights on his camera already. But there we go, all sorted with the lazy shot. We're both good to go, and off we go towards the bottom. You can see it's getting a bit darker, so I've decided to put my torch on. You also see that I'm just cancelling the alarm on my shear water there, just making sure all is well. For those of you interested in such things, you can see my diluent gas there is 1057. It's probably not the greatest mix in the world for this depth, but it's really easy to blend 1057. You just put in half helium and half air, and that's what you end up with. So I'm on the way down, and you can probably see there, I've just realised I've dropped my Kent tooling reel. With my Kent tooling reel is an SMB and also an emergency SMB. So there's probably, I don't know, 150 pounds worth of stuff there. So I've decided I don't want to lose it. I know the current's really slight, so I've just dropped off the shot, and I'm heading straight down following my reel. Bit of stupidity by me there. Clearly I didn't clip it on well enough on my gear before I got in the water. So quite amazing really that it actually stayed on long, this amount of time. Also quite amazing that I managed to spot it. So I'm getting close to the bottom now. You can see there the wreck is starting to come into view. So it's great. It's great that I'm not on the seabed. So that'll mean I should be able to find the shot without too many problems. Also, it means I haven't wasted a dive through stupidity. So, but what I can't see is my reel. So where's my reel gone? And I'm having a good look around. I mean, I can't be far from it because I'm pretty certain that I dropped straight down. But there it is, bingo. So I probably came down with within maybe a meter or so of it. So I'm gonna pick it up and clip it back on. I don't want that to happen. Now, for those of you who are interested in such things, these reels are absolutely brilliant. Kent Tooling, small British company located in Kent, as you would probably imagine. They make all sorts of interesting stainless steel stuff, and their reels, loads of the guys I dive with have these reels just because they're so nice to use underwater. They weigh quite a bit, but the great thing about them is they work really well even when you've got completely frozen fingers. So it's not like a spool or something where maybe if you lost dexterity in your fingers, it would be difficult to use. So that's why I'm a big fan, and I actually carry two. I've got that one there that you saw, which is my primary one, which has got my DSMB and my emergency DSMB on. I also have another one that is configured for use as a distance line should I need it, and I carry in my pocket, I carry a spare orange DSMB and another spare yellow DSMB. So if I've got plenty of options for signalling if I ever need to. So if I ever drop my reel, for instance, I'd be okay. Now the great thing is also, as you can see there, you can see the strobe up in the top. You can see there, Rick hasn't actually noticed that I dropped straight down from the shot line, which is great. But what I haven't done is put my strobes on. So I'm now heading up onto the shot line. I'm going to put my strobes on there so that they're there when I get back. I guess the other thing to start noticing is bits of the wreck, and you can probably see down there is the drive shaft. Now the Almond Branch is really interesting. It's interesting for loads of reasons, but one of the reasons it's interesting is that it's actually upside down. So normally upside down wrecks are really rubbish to dive because all you do is see loads and loads of hull. The interesting thing about the Almond Branch is that the hull is broken open, so you're actually able to look down on the wreck from the inside. Now, because of the cargo the Almond Branch was carrying, it was actually quite substantial cargo, which is why the prop shaft is lying on top of the cargo. So the cargo is kind of a bit odd. It's some sort of, I guess, cylindrical shaped stuff. Now you quite often see these on wrecks, and what it is stuff that would have been put in barrels, so maybe pitch or tar or china clay or something like that. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's in the barrel. The barrel has rotted away long since, but the stuff inside the barrel hardened, and that's why the drive shaft is lying on top of it. And you can see here the drive shaft, you'll see it in a second off to my right hand side, the drive shaft is actually suspended above the bottom on this cargo. It's held together, as you can see, in different chunks with big nuts. Now normally those were steel, so often on wrecks they do rot away, the nuts and bolts. But on the Almond Branch, they appear to have survived. So you can see there, drive shaft is suspended several, probably a metre or two above the bottom, while the hull has broken away and is off either side of it. So really unusual to see this actually. Often drive shafts are buried under cargo, or they're buried under the seabed. Very, very rare. In fact, I can't think of another wreck I've dived where the drive shaft is suspended in mid-water like it is here. But what I'm doing is I'm following the drive shaft along. Now I have actually dived the Almond Branch once before, probably about 5 years ago maybe. It was before I owned it, and my recollection at that time was that it wasn't a particularly interesting wreck. But that's not my experience at the moment. I'm actually really enjoying this dive. It may be because I now own it, but also it's really interesting. You've got this suspended drive shaft. You've got all the cargo, and what we've come to here is the end of the engine room. So you can see us there. We're starting to look into the engine room, and you can see there's various pistons and conrods and all sorts of bits and pieces in there. Some of the decking that would have allowed the engineers to get around it and to have a look at the engine. Obviously, engines like these needed loads of maintenance. Regular maintenance while they were in use, but also periodic maintenance when they were stopped. So the ability to access the engine is really, really useful. Because the engine is also really solid and the boilers are right next to it, it also means that this is the highest point of the wreck above the seabed. So the deck and the plate is being held up by the boilers and by the engine. What this does is creates a bit of an opportunity here, and you can see there that's me just having a bit of a look inside and trying to figure out whether it's possible for me to go in here and just have a bit of a look around. I've clearly decided that first gap isn't okay, so I'm having a bit of a look at this one here, and this one is looking a bit more promising. That looks like a bit of a boiler maybe on the left hand side, and the engine I think probably on the right hand side. So I'm just going to manoeuvre myself and see if I can drop in here and just have another good look around. Clearly going inside wrecks is not for the faint-hearted, but a great tip I think is if you're going to go in something like this, try and go in feet first. If you go in feet first, that makes it a lot easier for you to get out. If you go in head first, then clearly you've got to either try and come out backwards or rotate around somehow, and clearly there's nowhere near enough space to do that in here. Obviously the downside of going in backwards like this is that whatever goes in first is going to kick up the visibility, and there's loads of silt and stuff here. There's actually a river, the River Foy, relatively large river, comes out into the sea, not a million miles away from here. So I think a lot of this stuff would have come down the river and therefore accumulated on the wreck. So I've gone in backwards. There's not an awful lot of room. You probably saw a few bits of my gear got caught on stuff, but it does mean I can have another look around in here and just see if there's anything interesting. Clearly, what I'd really like to find in here is an engine maker's plate. If you've seen some of my other videos, you see I had a really good year last year, and I recovered. I ended up recovering 3, although there's only videos of 2. Clearly, I'd love to add another one to that list, especially if it's the Almond Branch, obviously the ship that I own. Unfortunately, no joy, but I'm taking my time and having a good look around in there. Unfortunately, not really seeing anything. So I'm going to come back out, pull myself out, and then get on with the rest of the dive. Now, I've been to the bow before on this wreck, and if you had a look at the multi-beam image at the beginning of the dive, you probably saw the bow is quite flat. So the most interesting bit of this wreck is the stern, in my view. So I'm going to make my way back to the stern. Last time we were there, we saw a gun mount, so I'm going to be having another look for the gun mount and maybe the gun. And also, obviously, you've got that prop shaft up in the mid-water. So that's where I'm going to be heading in a little bit. It's also worth mentioning a bit about Oh, there's the boiler. You can see it in front of me. Big, obviously cylindrical shape, classic Scotch boiler. In fact, the Almond Branch has got two. There's the other one. They've kind of ended up a bit on top of each other. Two large Scotch boilers, and then there's also going to be a condenser somewhere, and I'm going to see that in a moment. The other interesting thing with the Almond Branch is it was quite an unusual category of ship. It was known as a turret deck ship, or a turret deck steamer, and these were designed to give them reduced toll fares going through the Suez Canal and presumably other canals. Oh, I can just see there I've got a bit of fishing line caught on me. Given where this wreck is, relatively close into the shore and near a few fishing ports, it's not really surprised that it's heavily fished. Anyway, I've got rid of that without too many problems, and I'm off on the rest of the dive. And oh yeah, that looks as though it may be either a condenser or maybe a donkey boiler. Donkey boilers were kind of smaller boilers that they used They didn't use as much coal. They didn't require as much effort to keep them stoked. So ships with those would use them in port to keep facilities running without the hassle of having the entire the main boilers fired up. So that one there, you can see it's kind of like a cylinder with a dome on it. So that would have the top of the dome would have been upright, and it's collapsed when the ship fell over. So you might say, actually, looking at this, that the ship is more on its starboard side than completely upright. But anyway, so I'm wandering off now. This is kind of, I guess, the area in and around the engine. So there would have been accommodation there. There would have been, maybe bridge gear. That's some sort of brass thing I've just seen there that's kind of bolted onto a piece of plate. So there is stuff around here. You can see actually loads of pink sea fans. Those are the kind of very colourful sort of, I think they're kind of a form of cold water coral or some sort of cold water marine life. There's also quite a few fish around and everything. So, it's quite nice to see those things growing on the wreck. So yeah, going back to the Almond Branch being a turret deck steamer, these were a really odd design where the bottom of the wreck, or the bottom of the ship, is wider than the top. And you can see here in this cross section a diagram of how it would look. So the bottom of the ship, obviously quite flat, and then quite bulbous, and then it comes in as you get closer to the top of the ship. And here's another picture of one being built, and you can see the ribs of the ship there, once again with that really pronounced wide at the bottom and then coming in closer to the top. Going back to one of the pictures of the Almond Branch I showed you earlier on, once you realise it's there, it's quite easy to see. So you can see the guys some guys are stood on that kind of the top of that bulge. So yeah, it's a really interesting design, and one that was all about reducing tariffs. There was quite a few of them built. I mean, I don't think it was a super popular design, but certainly there was a whole array of, I guess, relatively cheaply produced ships that conformed to this design and that were used all over the world. I mean, during my time researching the Almond Branch, it clearly got round a bit. There's pictures of it in Australia. There's a picture of it in Vladivostok. There's a really interesting series of pictures from Oregon where it would appear that it somehow managed to get caught against a bridge and also captured, or sort of a ferry was involved in that somehow. Unfortunately, I've not managed to find details of the story, but I'm sure it would be really fascinating if someone could. For anyone who's interested in doing some research, that's the Morrison Bridge in Portland, Oregon. So I think it's 1902. So anybody with access to a newspaper archive, it would be really fantastic to find or to hear what you can find out. I'm sure there's a fabulous story, and that was obviously not that long after it was built, and certainly quite a long time before it was sunk. So clearly the Almond Branch had an eventful history. I'm clearly rooting around on the wreck, and that's quite interesting there. Pulled out a bit of a mug. Not certain if it's original or not. Looks as though it could be. There's no markings on it that I can see. It does look like a mariner's mug, so may have been original. May have been something that somebody else has chucked overboard and that's just ended up on the wreck. Don't know. In fact, I'll be honest, I don't know why I didn't bring that up, but I didn't. So anybody who wants to dive the Almond Branch, go down, have a look, and find the mug and bring it back. I'd be really interested to sort of hear what you found on there. So this is me just swimming around the, I guess, off to the side. So this would be the starboard side of the wreck. It's broken down onto the seabed, quite flat here, and you can see there's loads of just bits of ribs, bits of ship superstructure really. So it's there on the seabed, and actually the whole area around the wreck is like this. It's really quite flattened down. What you can see there, though, if you look down, you can see that curve in the hull. You can see it there, and that's really distinctive for a turret ship. Now, I don't think there's anything for certain that's ever identified the Almond Branch, so nobody's brought up the bell or the maker's plate or anything like that. The way it was identified was because it's the only turret ship that is lost in this area, and it's about the right size, it's about the right length, it's got the right number of boilers. So a combination of all those factors is why this is believed to be the Almond Branch. Of course, something could come up from it to prove that wrong. Does occasionally happen, but it would have to be a very, very lost turret ship, I think, for that to happen in this case. So here I am swimming around again. You can see I'm starting to get into the cargo area, so we're starting to see whatever that stuff was that was in barrels is just off to my left-hand side. You also probably saw the strobe. This looks like a mast underneath me, quite eaten away, but clearly there would have been this would have been for loading and unloading the ship. Really important in this time that the ship had the mast, the ship had the lifting gear, very different to modern ports where ships don't have anything for lifting cargo. It's all provided by the port. So yeah, different times. So here I am swimming around on the stern again, and quite a lot of fish around on this wreck. Quite a lot of people comment on this on my other videos actually, and all the wrecks in the English Channel are alive with marine life. All sorts of different fish. They breed here. Clearly there's lots of places for them to shelter, there's loads of food for them, and that's why one of the reasons wrecks are so important, I think, to the local ecology. They're also safe here from trawling, and to a certain extent from fishing, because a fisherman doesn't want to get too close, because if they get too close with their nets, they're going to get trapped in the wreck, and clearly they don't want that to happen. So another diver up in front of me there. That's Will. He's got something in a bag, and I see it later on, and it's a really, really big edible brown crab. So he's going to take that home and have that for dinner, and mighty tasty it will be as well. So I'm quite close to the stern here, and you can see there. I can see that's the boss of some sort of helm. So you've got to ask what's the boss of a helm doing in the stern? Well, almost certainly that is the emergency steering position. A ship like this would have had the main helm or possibly helms up in the bridge, which would have been located above probably above the boilers or just forward of the boilers in this for the Almond Branch. Oh, that's the gun mounts. You probably see it, very sort of distinctive conical shape. The Almond Branch had a 4-inch gun. No idea where the actual gun is, but it's got to be around here somewhere, or possibly will have been recovered. So the Almond Branch has been known about and dived for a very long time. 58 metres. They would have done this quite happily on air back in the day, and clearly it was bought in the 70s by the guy I bought it from. So it may well be that they salvaged the gun. Clearly very high quality steel in a gun, so they would have been able to sell it. So I've gone back round here, and there's that boss again. I'm trying to figure out, if there's anything else it's attached to, but it's all a bit of a mess here. Everything's on the seabed, but that is a really interesting thing. I mean, potentially, of course, that's got the name of the wreck on it. It might have the name of the Almond Branch. So there may be some sense in bringing it up to identify it. Unfortunately, you can see it's also attached to a whole load of other stuff. So getting it up is always going to be a bit challenging. So I've been underwater quite a while now. You can see there the water temperature, according to my Paralenz, in the bottom right hand corner is 10.5 degrees. Actually, it feels pretty chilly. Oh, there's something interesting. I guess that's some wheels. Don't know what off. We haven't got any details really on what cargo the Almond Branch was carrying. So according to the records, all it says is 1,000 tons of general cargo. It was on its way from London to South America, presumably was hugging the coast, or maybe had popped in to refuel or drop mail or something like that in Cornwall, and therefore was heading basically west when the UB-57 saw it and put a torpedo into it. There's Will with his crab again. He's obviously found something interesting to look at down there. Don't know what it is. I'm going to head up to the right on the seabed, up to the top of the wreck, because I'm kind of feeling that it's getting close to the end of my dive. Will's obviously having a lot of fun there. Maybe you see another lobster or another crab or something. One of the great things is we've got a fairly detailed account of the sinking. So for those who've never read it, there's a book called World War I Channel Wrecks. Bit of a specialist subject, I have to say. Written by a guy called Neil Moore, who went into the archives in London, had a good look around, and put it all together. Oh, Will's kicked me in the head there, which is very good of him. But yeah, according to the information he's got, the ship was torpedoed on the starboard side. They saw it coming before it hit. It was early in the morning, 8:05 a.m. So they got hit. It blew all the hatches and stuff off the number 4 hold. And to be honest, that's probably the area that we're in at the moment. The number 4 hold. They managed to get the engines full astern, get the engines stopped. They wanted to do that before they lowered the boats, as lowering boats when the ship was still underway could cause loads of problems. So they got the vessel stopped, and they got everybody off in an orderly fashion. The whole crew were there, apart from one person who they think was maybe killed in the initial explosion. So everyone got off and got into the boats, and then they obviously sailed away while and watched the ship sunk. Shortly after it sunk, the submarine surfaced, and they pointed some guns at the master of the ship and demanded details of who they were, where they were coming from, name of the wreck, and all those kind of things. The master, a guy called Captain Donald, wasn't particularly keen to give the information, but he didn't feel that it would have been wise not to do so, given the fact they were pointing some guns at him. And the ship finally sunk about 45 minutes after it been torpedoed, and the crew were picked up by another ship and then taken into Gorenhaven, which is a local fishing vessel. On the dive, you can see I've recovered my strobes. I've told Rick that I'm heading up. He was clearly a bit keener to spend longer down than I am, and you can just see me there. I'm changing my set point from 1.3 to 1.5 bar on both my rebreather and my off-board handset, and that's just to accelerate the decompression. I'm clearly coming up here. You can see I've got to about 33 meters. So very shortly I'm going to arrive at where I left my tag and the laser shot. So I'll be taking those off and then heading up for the deco. The thing that's flashing is my strobes. I've clipped them on, but I've not turned them off yet. I'm just in the process of doing that. And there's the laser shot with my tag on. In fact, you can probably see there's only a few tags. There'll be mine, there'll be Will's, and then I think there'll be Rick's. So Rick almost certainly is going to be the last man up the line, and he'll be the person releasing the shot. So I'm going to. I've taken my tag off there. You can see the other 2 tags, Will's and Rick's. Different qualities there. Rick's is beautiful and lovely, and Will's is made with a couple of pieces of string and some sticky back plastic. Doesn't matter. All do the same job. All work well, and that's me carrying on my ascent. I'm going to have a look back down the line, see Will. There he is coming in for his. So it'll just be Rick then. Rick's last man on the wreck, and he'll be the last person up the line. For those who are interested in such things, here's my dive profile. It's not the longest, it's not the deepest, but hey, it's January and it's my wreck. An hour or so, hour and 10, hour and 15 underwater, 58 metres. Still, yeah, it's a pretty decent dive. Fast forward a few minutes, I've got rid of all the deco and just moving up to my 6 metre stops. You can see there Will's in front of me. He's got his bag with his big crab in, and there's my Kindle hanging on the end of the deco trapeze. Will, very helpfully, is starting to take it off for me, and he's going to hand it over to me. I'm going to clip it on, which is great because you know, I'm quite looking forward to a bit of a read of my book. I've got my heated vest on, so not too cold. Visibility's nice. This is a nice, chilled, relaxed phase of the dive, so it's a good opportunity to catch up on a bit of reading, which obviously helps no end accelerate the deco. So what I normally do at this point is I clip the canvas bag in which the Kindle is onto myself, and then what I can do is I can open up the bag and bring out the Kindle. I've got another double ender there which I'm going to use to secure the Kindle to a clip on my wrist. So this is a fairly well established process. It does work well. You can see there's a bit of swell on the surface, which is always kind of annoying. You can see the decompression trapeze going up and down there, and the risk is always that your buoyancy is good, you stay still, and you know what you don't want is the deco trapeze to smash you in the face. Just looking down there, you can see Rick. He's probably at 12 metres there, I guess. He stayed on the wreck a bit longer than I did, and so he's paying the penalty with a bit more deco. But there's my double ender. That's going to go on my wrist, and I'm just getting ready to settle in to watch my book. To read my book. There we go. It's all good. Just checking how many stops I've got left. Going to pull the book down. All is very pleasant. And then all of a sudden that happens, and it's like, wow, a dolphin. I mean, you just don't expect to see dolphins. Will's completely not noticed it. He's telling me something about the waves. And there we go, a dolphin, mother and calf, and that one there, I mean, I swore, I felt it was going to hit me. I almost had to dive out of the way, but there they go. Will spotted them, which is great, and they head off there, and you just go, wow, that's made a great day out even better. Will obviously agrees with me there. He's given me a double okay. Fast forward another minute or two, and we're obviously all looking out, clearly hoping that it'll come back, and bump, there they are again. Same pair. Poor old Rick down the bottom there. He hasn't actually seen them, but here they come again. Just absolutely incredible how close these dolphins are to us. You know, just an absolute privilege to see, you know, large marine mammals in their native environment, you know, interacting with us, and yeah, just incredible. Just made the dive. Unfortunately, we spend a lot of time looking out for them, but they don't come back, or if they do, we don't see them. Fast forward again, and this is near the end of my dive. You can see Will and Rick are still down there. I've obviously come up shallower. I've cleared my decompression. I'm looking forward to getting out the water. It's not that cold, but I do, even with dry gloves, I do feel it on my hands. So there we go. There's the two boys supporting the trapeze, and there's our dive boat Seeker. Always great to see that when you come up, and clearly they're very attentive. I've given them an okay signal, and they're going to come over and they're going to pick me up. At this point, I want to give a shout out to the guys who operate this boat. It's in deep. There are a few young lads in the Plymouth area. They operate 3 boats, and they've just got a 4th. This one here, Seeker, which is fantastic, isn't it? The teeth on the front of it, the big shark's teeth. It's actually a really famous dive boat. It's been used for 20 or 30 years for taking divers out, and some of the biggest dives in the UK have been done off this, or certainly in the English Channel have been done off this boat. Not necessarily with the current people who operate it, but it has got a great history, and the current team are absolutely brilliant. Done loads of diving with them. Hopefully I'm going to do a load more. And there you go, they've dropped the lift in the water. I'm going to get myself on the lift, and then after however long it is, gravity is suddenly going to return with a vengeance. I've got all my kit on, and it's going to make its presence absolutely felt. So there we go, going to bring me up on the lift there. Liz is videoing, so She's videoing me, I'm videoing her to kind of keep a record of what happened, and up we come. There's Ben, he's our skipper for today, just wants to make sure I'm okay, and obviously they're all buzzing because they've seen the dolphins on the surface as well, so it's always really nice to, it's really nice for them to kind of, to have happy punters, I guess, and that's certainly me today. And so here's the action from a slightly different perspective. That's me in the water there, and get myself on the lift with all my bits and pieces kind of attached on me. You can see my two paralenses there. I've just given Liz the OK signal to tell me that she can bring me up, and here I come. So that's the end of a brilliant day's diving. I've dived the wreck that I own for the first time. We've had dolphins on the deco stops. We've had stunning visibility. We've had great surface conditions. It's January, so life is good. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, please feel free to tell me what was good, what was bad, and I'll look forward to seeing you for the next one. Thanks a lot.